Welcome to the Fast Podcast, your go-to source for financial advisor strategy talks. Hosted by Laura Galloway, Senior Vice President of Channel Management at White Glove. Tune in as we uncover valuable insights from industry experts, offering you actionable tips to elevate your business.
All right, guys, welcome to the Fast Podcast. I'm excited to have one of our very best hosts at White Glove with me today. I've got Kurt Stahl, and Kurt is, we call him a proverbial poster child of White Glove because Kurt has just done amazing things with the tools that we've given him, and he's had great success. And he's, Kurt, what I love about you, and I can't wait for you to share today, you are such a good business person. You're such a good human, and you're such a good educator because I love the way you share your experiences in a way that other people can really understand. So, Kurt, welcome to the Fast Podcast.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's a nice introduction. I'll try to live up to it.
I know you will. You're a tall man and also a very good man.
I'm just 6 feet. Yeah, I'm a regular guy. All right. I'm not 6'6". I wasn't quarterback of the high school team or anything. Just the average guy on the street. Okay. Regular guy.
I love it. Yeah. Awesome. Regular guy. So Kurt, tell us what you do as a regular guy in your day-to-day business. Where are you and what kind of work do you do?
Sure. I'm in Lakewood Ranch, Florida. So I'll tell you a little about my background. I was born in Chicago, lived there. My family moved to Virginia when I was 10. And I basically grew up there, went to the University of Virginia, got a degree in economics. I worked as a mortgage broker for quite a few years. I was a stockbroker for 2 years in 86 and 87. And I learned how bad it is when you lose clients' money when Black Monday came in 1987. And I'd been building a client base and the market dropped 22% in a day. And I had to call all these people telling them that, they'd lost $100,000, $200,000.
I can't imagine that.
But it was a lesson too, because I've used that understanding of what it's like to lose other people's money. Now, if they stayed in the market, it did recover, but I've used that going forward, and that's helped me. You need to learn that early, that you don't want to lose other people's money, and that you have to have a plan that's going to make sure that when the market drops, they're not selling low to fund necessary expenses. So anyhow, after the crash in 87, I went back into mortgage banking for a number of years. I moved from DC to Chicago and then over to San Francisco. I got married along the way, had a kid, unfortunately got divorced. So, something that a lot of people have gone through. Everything hasn't always worked perfectly in my life. In 2000, I went overseas and I started working overseas. I worked for an Australian investment bank that moved me around Asia for a number of years, working with a medical company they were working with, helping to manage that. So I lived in Indonesia, Beijing and Shanghai in China, and I lived in Bangkok and Chiang Mai in Thailand. So I did that for about 3 years. Then they pushed me over to Russia, and I lived for 8 years in St. Petersburg, Russia. I worked for that investment bank for a while, and then I ended up working for an American private equity firm there in Russia. I met my wife, and I had 2 kids during those 8 years in Russia. We went back to the States to rest in Virginia, and a couple months after I got there, I got contacted by the Australian investment bank that I had been working for in Asia, and they said, come work in Perth. So I went there for a couple years. And my wife, after 2.5 years in Australia, the kids were getting Australian accents. And she said, are we going to live the rest of our lives here where they're going to build all their friendships and everything? Or are we going to end up in the States? So we decided to go back. I had no job. We decided that we'll go somewhere where we want to live. And we chose this area of Florida. So we looked at Florida. We wanted to be somewhere warm. If you haven't been to Russia, it's really, really, really cold. So we wanted to be somewhere. Yeah, it would be -40 for months at a time. I would call my dad in the United States, and there'd be 110 degrees of difference between his temp and mine. So we decided on Florida. And so I started back in this business as a sub-advisor. I joined a firm as a sub-advisor. And right away, I understood that if I wanted to make money in this business, I needed to run my own firm. So from day one, when I started working as a sub-advisor, I worked on getting the certified financial planner designation. There's a lot of designations out there. I think a lot of them are valuable, and I'm constantly trying to improve myself. I'm constantly studying for another designation. But that was the first one because that's kind of the gold standard. So while I was working hard during the day, every night I was studying for 2 or 3 hours. And the minute I passed that exam after 2 years, I decided I'm going out on my own now because I knew I had to be able to answer the question, how long you been doing this? And the way I answered it was I didn't answer it. I'd say I'm a certified financial planner. So I dodge that question and say I'm a certified financial planner. That's the gold star in this industry. I know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And you do know what you're doing by the time you've passed that on some level. So I wanted to go out on my own, but I had this problem. And the problem was it's one person. I was literally from the start, I was renting office space by the hour. I'd move into an office. I'd have a meeting with someone. I'd say goodbye to them in the office. They'd leave. 5 minutes later, I'd take all my gear and go out to my car and work in my car for an hour and a half till I had another appointment. So I knew it was going to be,
man. That's great. You really did it.
Well, I knew it was going to be me alone for a while because I had a divorce, as I mentioned. I started a business at one point that failed. I mean, if you look at the top 5 reasons for bankruptcy, I had at least 3 of them. So I never went bankrupt. But, at the time when I came back to the States, we didn't have much to go with. Yeah. And I couldn't hire this giant staff. It was going to be me, and I knew it. And I had a problem. How can I do the marketing and be the advisor and do the appointments? And I stumbled upon White Glove. And Natalie Grassi was a gal working there, and I met with her. And I said, this has got to work for me. I mean, I'm putting money into this that I don't even have, and it's got to work. And it has worked fantastically for me. That was 2017, March of 2017, when I went out on my own. I have really only used White Glove for my marketing since then. And it's just been gold for me from day one. The first seminars I had, looking back, some of the first few that I had are still some of the best I had in terms of the number of people I got. So, and that's not to say that every seminar is fantastic either. Mm-hmm. I have some that aren't great and some that are fantastic, but I stuck with it during that first year. And, my revenues at the end of 2017 were $224,000. And it was great. Me. I didn't even have an office. As I said, I was going in and out of an office, renting by the hour. So
I want to just back up for a second, though, because when you share that you started with White Glove, kind of right there at the beginning, when you were working out of your car and renting an office by the hour, how did you pick seminars, though? Like that's sure. Not everybody's first choice. So how did you pick seminars?
Well, I had moved here. I didn't have any connection groups. I mean, I didn't grow up here. I didn't have high school, college friends. We knew no one. My wife was from St. Petersburg, Russia. We didn't know a soul in this town. The firm that I went to work for as a sub-advisor did dinner seminars. So I was doing dinner seminars within 6 months for that firm. So I was speaking at dinner seminars. Now, I did not like dinner seminars because in Florida, there's people we call plate lickers, and they just go around every night and eat free dinners on financial advisors. They have zero intention of becoming a client. They just want a free dinner. And so I also was raised by a little Irish Catholic woman who gave me lots of Catholic guilt syndrome. I do not want someone to join my firm because they feel guilty that I bought them a steak. And I don't want to fill a room.
Not your modus operandi.
No, not at all. And I don't want to fill a room with plate lickers, with people who have so low morality that they're going to come and get free steaks every night from someone who's hoping to get their business. I wanted to do educational seminars. I wanted to have the room filled with people who actually want to learn something and want to get something out of the meeting. They're not expecting any free gifts, free food, anything. They come to learn. And then if I can teach them something, I can bring them in my office and perhaps make them a client. So, and the other thing about seminars for me is they're a chance to connect. And I know some people are very good at webinars. I connect better when I'm with someone in a seminar. And I should say, when I'm saying that, that might sound then like I'm this extrovert, the guy at the party who's making all the jokes or something like that. I'm the exact opposite. I am an introvert, even to the extreme. And not when I go to the advisor events, I'll sit at a table myself and things. I don't make friends with everybody, or across the room. But when I go and do a seminar, I put on a bit of a show. Okay. And when I sit with clients, I have to be something that they need. Okay.
Yeah.
And that took practice. Okay. But seminars allow you to connect personally. And what I did to overcome being an introvert was I got really good at the seminars before I started them. And it's like anything else. Michael Jordan didn't start his first game never having played basketball, right? He was cut from his high school basketball team. I mean, I don't know, probably everybody knows that, but Michael Jordan was cut from his high school team. And then he went out and did more work than anybody else and became the greatest ever. Now, I'm hardly the greatest ever, but I put in the time. I'd spent a lot of time practicing the seminars, and I go through PowerPoints, which I like, but I don't memorize a script. And I look at the PowerPoint and I know what that PowerPoint is generally focused on, and then I'll talk because I know the material. So I think that seminars give you a unique chance to connect with people, and seeing you face to face in the room with them makes a difference. And I think anyone can get good at it, because if I can get good at it, anyone can. I really am a quiet person at heart, right? That's not who I am.
Well, just one of the things that I think comes across, you didn't say it explicitly, but being an introvert who has decided to do public speaking, crazy as that is, right? Number one fear for most people above death is public speaking. And you've decided to do it anyway. And I think, you say when you get there, you put on a show, but I feel like one of the things that you do so well, because I've seen, some of your recordings and such over the years, you become an educator.
Yes. And
like you said, when people come to your office, you have something they need. That's right. You don't have to be a celebrity. You don't have to be, Pat Sajak on the Wheel of Fortune who keeps people engaged or whatever in a game show. You've got something they need. You're an educator, you're a subject matter expert. And maybe that takes some of the pressure off. So I just want some of the advisors listening today, if you're thinking, I can't do seminars, I can't do public speaking, listen to what Kurt's saying here, because I think that is like a really pivotal statement.
You're exactly right. And when I say I put on a show, again, I am fundamentally quiet, but I know the material. And the other thing is, and if anybody has seen a good seminar on Social Security or on taxes or on estate planning, a good seminar ties that subject into that attendees need to learn about overall planning. All of my seminars start based on one subject, take Social Security. And they come in thinking, all right, I'm going to learn when I should take my Social Security. But my whole presentation is about the fact that in order to make the right decision about Social Security, you have to plug this into a retirement plan. And you have to look at the impact it's going to have on your taxes. And you have to look at the impact it's going to have on the withdrawals you take from your IRAs or from your non-qualified accounts. And all these things interact, and everyone's circumstance is unique. And there's only one way that you can understand when you should take your Social Security. And that's to sit down with someone, tell them about your unique circumstances, and then let them help you make that decision. So it is educating, and I tell one or two stupid jokes during it. So I'm not up there trying to be, Chris Rock or anything. I'm literally but I know the material. I know how Social Security interacts with taxes. I know, what people do with their Social Security in terms of when people are most likely to take it and why. And I talk to that subject matter in a way that makes them feel I need to sit down with this guy in order to get this decision right. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you do a seminar on Social Security and you tell them how to make the decision without meeting with you, then you have no reason for them to come in and sit with you in your office.
Yeah.
I remember listening to some White Glove podcast or something. It was a live interactive thing. And a guy got on and said, I did a White Glove seminar. There were like 30 people in the audience and none of them became clients. And I was sitting there thinking, and that's on White Glove? They gave you 30 people and you didn't turn any of them into clients. You need to go look in the mirror and figure out what you did wrong. Okay.
Yeah.
And the great thing about our position, and I'm with Advisors Excel and AE Wealth Management as my RIA. It doesn't matter wherever you are, you're going to have endless resources. White Glove has endless resources. Frank, I use Frank's dollar bill opening at every seminar. I mean, I learned that through training from White Glove. There's so many resources and so many ways to get better that are provided by White Glove or by your IMO or your RIA or just out there, on YouTube. So anyone who wants to get good just has to practice. And I heard a very interesting study recently. It was about all the different factors that contribute to a financial advisor being successful. And I started to listen to this show. I was very curious as to what was going to be that number one factor. And what the number one factor was to success for a financial advisor was time in the business, which is very interesting to me because basically it says a couple things. And one is that anybody who can stick in there, hang in there, can be successful, right? And I've accelerated that process by trying to learn a lot in the first few years. If it's about experience, then why don't I cram 10 years of experience into the first 2 years of my work process? And that's exactly what I did.
You don't need to sleep. You just need to consume as much education and experience as possible, right?
Yeah. And, I started, as I said, in 2017. My revenues in 2021 were $1.2 million with me and 2 staff members. So you can do it. And, anyone can do this if I can. All right. Yeah. I've gone to events where you stand or you sit and you're watching somebody up there and he's model handsome and he's telling about all the businesses he built from ground zero and sold and then built another one and made millions. And I'm sitting in the audience thinking, this isn't me. I'm just as ordinary as anybody else. I wasn't quarterback of the football team. I wasn't even on the football team, right? I was a little guy, weighed 140 pounds, when I was in high school. I had some interesting jobs, but I never made millions in anything particularly. I had a divorce. I had a business go under. I've had a lot of struggles along the way. But I found this, and with your guys' help, frankly, because White Glove has been my only marketing, really, and with a lot of work, which anyone can do. Anyone can work hard. You don't have to be brilliantly intelligent to work hard, all right? And you don't have to be brilliantly intelligent to be a great financial advisor. Okay, you got to learn your software, right? There's so much out there to help you. If you know how to plug all the numbers into software, you can show someone a Monte Carlo simulation, and you can plug the software into, or the details into Social Security software and retirement planning software and risk software to assess their current portfolio. Yeah, it's a lot of data entry. Okay, and then the software does the hard work, right? Yeah. But you got to know how to speak to people.
You mentioned anybody can do it, the hard work. You've clearly put in your time and effort to practice and prep before you even do a webinar or a seminar, and now you're doing them on such a regular basis. Have you ever heard of Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers?
Yes.
Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I have.
And so he says, I think in there, it's the numbers around 10,000 hours is what it takes to become an expert.
Yes.
Would you say you've got 10,000 hours in the seat at this point doing your
and then
seminars?
some, and then some.
Yeah.
So
it's not hard, but you have to be diligent and you have to be, it's a grind, but you've also, you've mentioned White Glove and our resources. You mentioned Frank, and you're referring to, for those of you who don't know, Frank Maselli, one of our premier coaches, and has been a partner of White Glove forever and does a lot of presentation coaching. And you've taken the education available. You've taken the expertise available. you've learned not just how to speak, but how to pivot from being that subject matter expert in front of a room of attendees on Social Security to, let me talk to you about how this fits into your whole portfolio and your retirement income planning. Let me talk to you about all of that. You've taken all the pieces, Kurt, and you've added them up. And like you said, it doesn't take it's not rocket science to be a financial planner. There's so much the technology and software can help you do, but it's learning to connect with people, learning to build that bridge and show them how you're the person that can really help them get the financial future and the outcomes they want. You've mastered that. So you're not just a good speaker and a good financial planner. You've actually mastered that piece as well.
Well, you mentioned, for instance, all these resources and using them. Like when I started, that you guys taught me that, hey, you can send your presentation, your seminar to Frank immediately. Within a month or two of starting, I recorded my presentation. Why wouldn't anyone send a presentation to a guy like Frank? If you've ever seen him speak, I think he's one of the best speakers I've ever heard. And I sent this presentation to this fantastic speaker, and he analyzed it and gave me help. And I use his opening, as I said, in every seminar. I mean, so it's really just about pulling together the resources and doing, as you said, the work. The first 2 years when I was a sub-advisor, I studied 2 or 3 hours every night. I was tired when I came home. I didn't want to do it. I had 2 young kids. I'd play with them, eat dinner, and then go and do that. It was tough, but it's paid for itself. If you don't do that, okay, then you're putting yourself back, years by not putting in the work. But there's so many resources that can help you, so many. So, I mean, use them. That's how you get successful. Use the resources.
Well, Kurt, you are clearly a portrait of a regular guy who's not exactly regularly successful. You've got some mad skills and you've got some great success. And I would love, we always ask at the end of the podcast here, I'd love for you to share what your definition of success is.
Well, I would answer that from a standpoint of personal things and then work things. My family is the most important thing in my life. I have a wonderful wife. I have 3 beautiful kids, and the ability to take care of them, right? To send my second daughter is a freshman at FSU. She's a chemistry major, to send her to a good school, to take our family on good vacations, to spend time together. We did a Christmas cruise, all of us, to take good care of my family. That's success in my personal life, and to have those good relationships. On a business standpoint, I've had people from our headquarters I'm with Advisors Excel, but it could be any IMO, right? Say, why don't you build this into a bigger firm? Why don't you hire sub-advisors and things like that? And the reality is that I don't want to. I don't need that. For me, I want to build a practice that makes good money for myself, but I don't want to have 30 people working for me. Again, I don't want to have to deal with them because I'm an introvert. I have to have meetings all day long. That's as much as I can take. I don't want to deal with a staff of 30 people. I'm perfectly happy building a successful firm that's small. And also, I really care about what happens with my clients. And a lot of people say that, but we always do what's best for our client, no matter what. There are a lot of product lines out there that people have tried to get me involved with, to say, hey, you do this and if they can't prove to me it's better for my client, I won't do it. I don't care if I make 10 times the money doing this product instead of that. I'm going to do the one that's best for them. And that results in a lot of referrals. We have more 5-star reviews than any financial advisory firm in this area except one. And interestingly, that firm, almost all the reviews came on one day, if you look at it. So that's aside from them, we have more 5-star reviews in this community than anyone else. And because we really always try to do what's right for our clients. Made a mistake one time that cost my clients a bit of extra taxes. Right away, went out to my headquarters and said, what's the process I got to go through? I want to pay for this tax mistake for them. Wow. Well, that client, he died 2 years ago. He'd been with one of our first clients in 2017, him and his wife. And his wife told me later that in the hospital, while he was dying, she was scared, and she's totally incapable of taking care of herself. And he looked at her and he said, Kurt and Andrew, that's my office manager, they're going to take care of you. Don't worry. And because I had done what was right for him years ago, and it cost me several $1,000s, but it was my mistake, and I had to fix it. And I paid for that mistake and made him whole. And that gave him 100% belief that we would take care of his wife when he was gone. And he died, and we've been taking care of her. She can't even drive a car. Andrew drives down to her office a lot, or we do Zoom calls. So, I mean, if you do what's right, I think your client base will grow a lot faster than if you do what's right for you.
That's an amazing story, Kurt. And in all the times I've heard you speak, I have not heard that story, and I got chills. So thank you for sharing that. I can see, and I'm sure our listeners can too, there's no doubt why you are successful. So thank you for taking the time to share your story with us here at the Fast Podcast, Kurt.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. And if anyone wants some help, reach out to me through White Glove. I'm happy to help anyone I can.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll make sure that we post some resources that we talked about today. And if people do want to get in touch with Kurt, we'll help you do that. Kurt, thanks for being a great resource as always.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fast Podcast with Laura Galloway. Questions or comments about the show? We'd love to hear from you. Shoot us an email at info@whiteglove.com. Also, be sure to check out the show notes to find any resources we may have mentioned. As always, don't forget to hit that follow button so you'll never miss an episode. And once again, thank you for joining us on the Fast Podcast.